Hello, and thank you for checking out my latest video, Mastering React Components, a step-by-step tutorial. In this comprehensive YouTube tutorial series that I've started, we've been basically going through a React application, learning the ins and outs of React. In this video, I'm going to teach you about the React components from scratch. I'm a self-taught seasoned React developer with experience building React applications both professionally and as a hobby. In fact, React was one of the first frameworks that I came to learn early in my development career. And I would like to share the knowledge that I have with this by showing you how to build React applications properly for production use and just for anything you want to do locally as well. So without further ado, we'll get into what React components are and then creating our first React component. And in the next video, we'll look into props and state and functional versus component versus class components. Thank you. All right, so getting started, what is a React component? A React component are the core concepts of React. They are the foundations of building a UI or user interfaces within React. In a React app, every piece of the UI is a component. In order to get set up with your development environment, you will need to have Node.js 16.14 installed or greater. Uh, They'll also come with npm. And basically what I did is I went to the Vit website, which will be linked in the description, and I started the process of creating a React application, as I like to call a bare bones React application, with just a React script and bundle with the Vit bundler without, using Next.js or anything like that, just to be real simple and just keep everything simple. I'm going to walk through how to create your first React component and basically show you how you would import that component and a few other things within this video. So getting started, we'll be creating basically a profile component just like you would see at the react.dev website. That's the React documentation. That link is as well as in the description. And that's basically where this information has come from the most part, as well as experience and things that I've come along with my experience developing React applications. All right, so basically, let's get to creating our first component. I'm going to create a component called profile. First thing that I like to usually do is I like to keep my stuff kind of organized, so I'm going to create a components folder. Now, you don't have to do this, but that is just something that you could do. In this component folder, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it profile.js. You can also do a JSX, which is what this file is just stating that this file here has JSX content, and I'll get to more into what JSX is later on in the video. All right, so so going along, basically, what are we going to do to create this React application, this React component? I'm sorry. First thing you need to do is you need to export your function. So we're going to export, and I'm going to do a default export. Now, there's more information on the link that I got MDN on the description on what the differences is between a default export and a named export. But just real quick, default and named exports are basically ways of importing and exporting components. If you do a default export, it's just saying that this is the only main function of this file that is exported from this file. Therefore, you can just pull it in with using just the name of the file. And the named export, you can have multiple exports in that same file, and each one has their own corresponding name, and that's something you'll see. But basically, with React, you start out with just a plain React JavaScript function. Now, why would you do it on a separate file? Just more organization. I could create several other exported name functions within this one that align with profile. So I could have like just I go with function. You could do something like that too, and that could be within the same file here, and you could also import that. So if I was to save this and go into app, I would import this like hello world, from components folder at profile, the name of my file. Now I can also import profile, the name of the function, from components profile. So that's just the difference between a named. Here's a named, how you would import a named export. Named export being something like this. Export function by its name. or export the default function of this file. The default basic, this is what you get if you pull from this file. Import profile from profile. And those are the differences. We'll get more into that in a minute. So continuing along, I'll be exporting this component with the default export, and we will not be exporting hello world function. Basically, like I said, the export default prefix is a standard JavaScript syntax that's not specific to React or anything like that. It just marks the main function in a file to be imported later from other files. And we'll define that being profile. Here's our name of our function. And what is the difference between JavaScript functions and React functions is that it returns JSX, basically markup. So what we need to do in order to create this component correctly, we're going to return a basic image for our profile. So we're going to say return, and we're just going to put in image and do an image tag. We're going to do source. So source is going to be, now my source, I'm just going to pick something random from Lorem Pixel. Hold on, let me grab something real quick. And we'll just throw that in there. Make it, we'll just do something small for right now, so we're not get this picture, and then we're gonna have an alt, just alt tag, just basic good accessibility techniques. That's something you should look into as a web developer, is accessibility. But this one is allowing us to basically say what this photo is without, if the photo doesn't appear. So we'll just say profile of the user. It's something simple. It's not really anything. So now this, all intents and purposes, will work. All right, so let's make sure that it does work. All right, so back over here in my app.jsx file, we're going to import our profile. So import profile. And this automatically write it out for me, but you write from, and then within a single quotation mark or double quotations, no real difference. You would say where the location, the path of the location of the file you want. So in this case, we're going from the root file folder to the components folder to the profile file, JSX file. And you do not have to put JSX in there, but you could if you wanted to as well. But it's going to be discerned that way from when it does that and pull anyways. Profile is highlighted red for me because of the way I have my ESLint set up in configurations with my VS Code. Is just basically telling me that there's declared, but it's never being read. Yours may not show that if you're following along, but that's just why, because I'm not using it. So we're not using it yet. Let's see what happens. Let's go npm run dev, which is our script, to get this started up, and we'll move into seeing that once that loads up. Localhost 5117. I'll copy that and go ahead and launch it. And it's saying welcome to React. Welcome to React. That's what we got here. App.js. We got the page running. It's right here. Welcome to React. We're going to import our profile component. We already did so at the top. And we say profile hashtag. There you go. Not hashtag. Why did I say hashtag? Anyways, I meant /. So now we got our image here. It's just a random image from Lorem. Pick some Lorem images. That'll be linked in the description as well. Just good for development, testing things. And as we go, we got our profile component coming in as we wanted to, and this is what we can do with this. So now we got usable components that we can use as many times as we want. We get as many of those picture profiles as we want. Now later on, we get into using props and states. I'm gonna probably push that into another video because we're already pushing close to 15 minutes on this video. But that's just a simple plain Jane how you get your components in and looking at what components actually are in JavaScript. So, in React. So basically, what the browser is going to see on here, if we go to Control-Shift-I, and we go to elements, and we want to inspect this element, look at what it's showing here. We got a div with the 3 image tags on there. And that's all that the browser is going to see from React. It's got this div with 3 for us, well, it's more than 3, it's 4. But for us, 4 profile, which are nothing more than regular image tags. Okay. So the components can render other components, but you cannot nest their definitions. That means no functions within a function. So like, as you can see here, we're nesting within the app component here, and we got a nested child component, parent component, child component. But you can't do something like this function here and then create another function that says another component. Like you can, because you could do that in JavaScript, but it's gonna freak out at you. And in fact, my ESLint is freaking out on me because of that. That's what they mean by you can't nest within like that same function. It's gonna cause bugs and stuff like that. You could keep related components within the same file or create a separate file, as we was talking about. So I created a separate file for profile. I could have just as easily put the profile code within the app file right here. But app and profile are two different things. And plus, if we want to put profile somewhere else in our application, not necessarily within the app, we want to have it separated so it's easy to reuse it. Any component that you want to reuse and going to reuse, put it in its own file, basically. If it has something to relate with that main component, let's say profile, for example, like we had a lot more going on with profile, then we could, create other functions as needed that were like maybe this could be an actual image. So I could come up here and say, and you don't even need to export if you want to. Let's just say something simple like that. Return and blah, blah, blah. So, whoops, I had return twice because I copy pasted. So that, and then we could just say return, and that could be the image of user. Well, gotta put it in the bracket. And if I say nothing should change, because it's literally the same thing, it's just I took the user and made my own separate component. And you could do that, compromise this. Like a component could be a whole complete page. So I can make a profile page and have just whatever other elements coming on here. Now, let's say I wanted 2 of these images per one profile page. And you see I've been using one line. Now, if I go in here and I go return, and then I copy that component, I can't do that. How am I supposed to do that? So how do you get away with having multiple components coming from one component? You have to put these bad boys in a parentheses, and they also have to have a common ancestor, a common parent. So most times you don't have a real reason for a div. You can use what React likes to call a fragment. So this little component right here, these little blank tags is called fragments. Back in the day, you actually had to write fragment, but in this day, you don't. So now my code is acceptable. And you see all of our images quadrupled on the side here because now I'm putting 2 of these images of user in here. And so, yeah, that's how that goes with that. All right, so just to recap, basically what we got here is a component that we created. We define the profile, which is just a JavaScript function. It's a function that returns JSX. In order to have multiple returns of JSX, you need to put them all in the ancestral element. So they have to have a common ancestral element, and you need to wrap them in a parentheses to allow something like this, which is basically 2 of these functions within that one function. All of our created components must start with a capital letter, and they must return markup, which is JSX, though it looks like HTML, is JSX. So basically, in a sense, it allows us to have JavaScript with a little HTML syntax in it. We can import and export our components as necessary, either with default or named exports, just like you can with any other JavaScript function. You can get more information on that on the MDM website with the link in the description below. The components can render other components, but you cannot write or create a function within a function or a closure function. It will let me do this, but it will cause bugs and problems doing that. And so React asks us to keep our functions separate. Okay, so you basically want to organize your components either in their own single files if they're separate from each other, within like separations of concern. So basically, principles of development, single responsibility principle. Uh, you can also keep them in the same file, like in the case of this one, the image of the user is related to the profile, so I kept it in the same file. And then going through, we all start out with the app. Every React application has a root component that it uses. In this case, it's app. You get this automatically when you use a bundler or React-based framework like Next.js. If you're using like a HTML with a little bit of React in it, you'll have several root components that will be sprinkled throughout the application for React to launch that. Just like they show on here, you have something like here to allow the application to come in. That's it for my review over React components for part 1. Check out part 2 coming soon. We'll look into props and state. We'll look into other advanced things that you can do with components. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe my video. The more likes, the more subscriptions, the more that I see I'm helping, and the more I'll be able to produce videos. Thank you.